All right. Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's like Sunday evening, and I think you all have been running a fantastic Power Packed show for the last 4 days. So well done on the great show by the web dev team India. Thanks again for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to talk. So with that, let's get started with today's talk, and I'll try to keep it as much short as possible and try to cover as much as possible. So the topic for today's talk is Developers Guide to Web Payments, Security and Compliance. 30 minutes for this is like kind of a bit of an overkill, but yes, we'll try to see as much as possible in this talk and see what we can do with around payment security and compliance. So as web developers, you all would have had very strong experience around UI, building the best kind of interface for your applications for different clients and so on. But yes, there is something very much needed to run the business, and that's payment. So if specifically you're doing e-commerce based websites, or if you're doing different websites which are related to application security, which is kind of very much essential in these days, this is something that we'll try to see in today's talk. So with that, let's get started. What's the agenda for the next 25 to 30 minutes? We'll try to see it in this talk. It's some standards around payments. Then we'll see like who is basically responsible for security, certain tools, frameworks, and with that we kind of end up for the session. So let us get started. What are these payments around? What are these standards around payments? We'll see something around that. So let's get started on this. So if you see like a standard workflow of any like e-commerce or payments based site, so if I try to see that how basically it happens, if a user clicks the pay button, there is a payment request that gets generated. That payment request then kind of the user kind of then goes ahead and selects the payment merchant that needs to be kind of selected. So if it's like a net banking, if it's a credit card, debit card, and so on, and that payment request is sent to the payment app. Now here, basically, that is one of this is one of the main integration layers that happen for payments, and then it can also happen that it's you are building a native interface, like your mobile application is kind of present on the device. So specifically, if I talk of like Google Pay, so what will happen? It will open that Google payment interface, and from there you kind of confirm the payment, enter your PIN, and so on, and then the payment is processed. The payment is processed at the merchant end, and so on. And then so basically that whole payment cycle gets completed. So it basically starts from here. So it actually starts from here, but yeah, we will just kind of assume that you are on some other merchant site and then kind of restore and then kind of go into this flow. With this, like your payment flow gets completed. Now if you see this particular diagram, it's more of a you can consider it like a UML, that how your basic flow is happening for payments. Okay, and the core interaction points where your payment credentials are being shared. So these are very much standard across any site or any application that you develop. Now these applications can be related to e-commerce, it can be any kind of service that you are selling online, it can be not fully like productization of your services, but it can be anything that you are selling and which requires a payment gateway. So with this kind of an interface, it is pretty much standard for any workflow to be designed, and that is why a new payment standard has kind of evolved these days. It is kind of called the web payment standards, and it's kind of now authorized or kind of in progress to get it regulated by W3C, which kind of runs the internet standards. So the payment standards, why this is kind of helpful is because you see, like from a consumer perspective, the payment flow is also kind of very simplified. So you get a very seamless one kind of checkout flow in any site that you see, so it becomes standardized in that sense as well. From a merchant perspective, if you are a seller, it becomes very easy for you to kind of implement payment options at the go. So if, like, say for example, you're a new merchant, you don't need to hire very specialized folks. Anyone who is like strong enough in web development and they have a good sense of API understanding, they can implement this payment interface at a very faster pace and in an efficient manner, because they won't have to worry about a lot of feature sets that go into payment. So if you talk of your web application on one side and the whole payment interface on one side, it's as good as building, if you're trying to build the payment by yourself, it is as good as building your whole web application together as a payment system. So the effort gone in terms of developing a payment systems by scratch would be eventually larger than the website that you have developed, and that is not the way in which we should be working. So, and that is why payment standards have been introduced now. So even like why this is helpful is like payment handlers or any kind of payment methods that come into the system, they can also integrate into this very easily, whether it is like a net banking, whether it is credit card, debit cards, or something like Stripe, PayPal, or even like Google Pay. Everything can be integrated into this realm, and the whole consumer experience, when they kind of use this application, it becomes very simple and kind of it's kind of beneficial both from a consumer perspective as well as from a developer perspective, because you have a very standard set of practice. So going ahead, like, I won't be surprised if there will be web developers who are specialists in payments, okay, and they really understand these APIs like in and out, just as you have experts into UI UX, or I won't be good with those terms in terms of web. Someone can be an expert into JS, React, or those frameworks. I would not be surprised in the long run, or in the very short term, if I would see job openings or specifications around payment specialists, and which is where these kind of APIs and standards are going to be helpful a lot. So speaking of payment standards and APIs, one of the most kind of useful ones, and which is kind of very popular these days, is Google Pay. However, it's not just this Google Pay API which is kind of the differentiator. The whole underlying layer is basically UPI, or the Unified Payment Interface. So there is an interesting story around this. Like, I mean, quite some time ago, like probably around in the later 90s or the early 2000s, when like the National Payments Corporation of India, so it was formed for the purpose of kind of having a centralized mechanism of payment. So at that time, probably it is very nice to know that the Indian government and the authorities, especially from the regulatory side of things, had a very strong foresight in seeing that the technology boom and the way in which mobile applications and web applications were evolving along with internet banking in those days. They saw that need of a single centralized form of payment system as well, and that is where this whole conception of UPI had started, where they thought that even if it's a mobile application, or using internet banking or any third party apps, this can have an interface directly into UPI, and they can then integrate whether it is an IMPS system, whether it is a NAC, which is like so if anyone is having like any kind of loans, you will see that you'll have to fill a NAC form, which is like an automated EMI gets deducted at every those stipulated month or the date of the month, and these systems are like NAC based systems. Now, for this also, like, your UPI interface can be effectively used, as well as even for like those feature phones, if they had to do it like without a smartphone device, if you had to do it via those USSD codes, so even that can be accessed via the UPI interface. So they pretty much came up with this architecture around UPI, and that is where you see that right now there are a lot of players into it. Google Pay is one of them, and payment has become very easy across, like, merchants, across individuals, whether it is like B2B or B2C. It has become very simple nowadays, thanks to this UPI interface. So to kind of say like how exactly UPI works. So if I have to like say, so if there is a merchant front end, so if we go back to this interface, so there is a merchant interface, there is a payment app, there's a merchant server and a payment gateway. So just consider these four players for now. So if I kind of go back over here and say that there is a merchant front end, okay, this is the payment app, okay, and then there is a merchant server. Okay, now the user is kind of like shopping on the merchant front end. There is a payment request that has been made. You'll see that the payment request is sent to an omni-channel API. Now specifically, if I've just kind of generalized this diagram more from the Google Pay API perspective. However, this omni-channel API is useful specifically when you're developing web apps or like mobile apps in that fashion. However, there is an API which is specifically for India as well, which kind of links with the Indian GPay system, specifically from a UPI perspective. So, but the interface remains, or the workflow remains pretty much the same. So there is a payment request. Payment request goes to the Google channels or the Google APIs, which goes to the Google Pay API or the Google Pay application. The user kind of makes the authorization with the help of PIN, OTP, or any other mechanism, and then the confirmation is sent back as a payment response to the merchant server, and that payment status is sent back on the merchant front end. So when you kind of do a shopping experience, okay, you'll see that how seamless this flow happens, and everything behind this is kind of all web driven. There is I think barely some certain components which are more server based. It is there is a lot of client side components as well which reside over here. So that is why understanding these APIs becomes very important for users to kind of use it, and then kind of for developers to use it and implement it into their systems as and above all, the security and the level of encryption that happens over here is kind of paramount, since these are all like Google APIs. The data is encrypted at rest, so you don't have to kind of really worry about any transaction loss or any kind of data hacks being happening over here. So that is how in short the API works from a Google Pay perspective. So you see that now, as we touched upon security, we saw that there is, in terms of the payment standards, there is the web payment standards, there is Google Pay. But then you still would think, as an application developer, who exactly is responsible for security? So there are several components. There would be like your server sitting, there is your database, there is your application front end, and then like if I like kind of take down this layer, it is mainly your infrastructure. So then as an application developer, you just need to kind of rethink a bit that who exactly is responsible for the underlying security. Anyone wants to take a guess or something around it? Okay. Right. So the answer, it's basically it starts with you. So if I have to say, application security or in general security, it's basically starts with you. So just consider a very simple example. Uh, you are writing an application, you are creating a of a variable name, you are storing it into some format. You always ensure as an application developer that it is kind of in the best possible way in terms of the standards. Same needs to be applied when you talk of security. So it always kind of in larger organization, it kind of there are specialist security teams as well, which kind of take care of these things. However, always remember, it kind of resides with you as an individual, as an application developer. But it is not just you, it starts with you, but then it is everyone's responsibility. So security is something that everyone in the organization is responsible for. You as a developer need to ensure that how your application web front end is written, how your back end is written. As a DevOps guy, you need to kind of ensure that how secured is your infrastructure and how robust are your servers, databases, and so on. So that essentially is more of like a DevSecOps approach. But then, so when I say DevSecOps, so developer, security, and operations, the security lies in between, which means it is everyone's responsibility. So in short, that means that it starts with you and it's kind of everyone is responsible. So with that, let us kind of see what are the different tools, frameworks that you can use in order to ensure security. Now, you as a web developer would definitely have a lot of things to do on your plate, from a application design perspective, from the workflow perspective, and so on. So you might not always have the time to think about security, but always have that design mindset that you need to ensure that your application is secured and so on. But often, like, due to our like way of working, it kind of boils down to like security is not something that you think at the first moment, but try to make it a habit as young developers, or even as you progress in your roles. Okay, just try to think always from a security first standpoint. So whether it is payments or any other system that you're working on, security has to be paramount. But to make your life easier as a developer, let us see some tools or frameworks that we can use from a to make things simpler from a security perspective. So specifically talking about payments and its industry around compliance and data security, there is something called as PCI payments, or PCI DSS standards, which is basically a set of rules. Okay, and it's like kind of, you can read the abbreviation. It is like Payment Card Industry DSS, Data Security Standard. So it's a set of 12 rules, okay, that like kind of ensures or protects the credit card information, or the basically the buyer. Okay, the buyer information is protected at using this standard, and it's kind of a must for any e-commerce website to kind of have this compliance set up on their systems and on their website. There are certain e-commerce merchants like which do not have these auditing done, and they might be like kind of vulnerable as well. So you just need to, I mean, you will, most of the sites you will see that there is a PCI DSS icon sitting somewhere in the footer or so at those places. So what this basically does is it it kind of is an auditing mechanism to ensure that how your data is stored, where exactly it is stored, and so on. And if those audit requirements are not met from an application perspective, you might tend to kind of lose a lot from a business perspective. Your website can be taken down, you might not be able to do business further. There are a lot of techno legal regulations that reside over there. But say for example you wanted to implement this, so there is a very simple way to kind of implement this using Google Cloud itself. So again, if I go back to the root, the main diagram, you see that there is an external payment processor. Just consider that as your pay API. There is an application network. There can be or which this is like more of the merchant network, and then this is like the customer, how the payment is initiated. So where exactly this whole system around PCI can reside, it's mainly the data that is being flowing across from systems to systems. So data from your customer is flowing into the application network, which is the merchant network, and to the external payment processor as well. But then this needs to be audited, and for that the only thing required is proper amount of logging and monitoring. which is fairly easy to achieve when you do a GCP based architecture. And with cloud logging monitoring, and top it up with a data warehousing platform like BigQuery, okay, your audit requirements are met and you can achieve PCI certification in a matter of very less span of time. So this is one way of kind of achieving a PCI DSS standard for your web applications. So your audit requirements around those 12 rules can be easily achieved using this kind of an architecture. So as you can see, like, yes, where exactly it resides is basically at the web application firewall level. So yes, as an application developer, you need to be somewhat aware of these systems and compliance methodologies as well. And if you kind of relate to this architecture, it's kind of tying up to that same way in how it's kind of positioned in the architecture. So this was one part from that was more of a techno legal or a regulatory way in which you can safeguard your website and your business. But then going core deep into the technical aspects of tools that can help you uh, you know scan your website on a regular basis and ensuring that there is no vulnerability within your website. So there is something called as web security scanner when you kind of have your applications on GCP. So one another reason to kind of host your applications on GCP, especially when you are developing something that is very much critical, which holds a lot of user data and so on. So at that point of time, having this web security scanner, it will help you kind of detect any kind of vulnerability before even like your code is pushed into production. So it's more of a gateway or a security gate which kind of ensures that your website is clean, safe, not vulnerable for your customers, and then you can like launch it full-fledged into the production environment. So how basically it kind of does is kind of it's more of a crawler. And generally any web security or security tools, they are mainly like crawlers. They kind of try to hit each and every URL that you can think of from your application perspective, and then like they create a net or a mesh around this whole URLs that you can visualize in your web application, and they try to attempt different sort of attacks on this. So these can be like typical XSS or SQL injection and so on. So similarly, the web security scanner also like crawls different URLs in your application and tries to exercise as much attempts or security threats into your system and see whatever vulnerabilities are kind of observed. So you get a very nice dashboard that when this was scanned, how many URLs were tested, what is the duration of the scan. So typically website scanning can range from like smaller websites can take even like 10 to 15 minutes, or larger websites can take even hours to scan fully. So it really depends on the whole how complex your web application is, and based on that you can get a very clean report, maybe on a weekly or at every build perspective you can get these reports. So these kind of help very much when you talk of security inbuilt within your cloud platform itself. So again, security does not end with this. There is still a lot more to do when you talk of standards or tools and features and so on. So there is something called as web risk API. It kind of helps you detect any kind of malicious URLs on your website. So now, so this is more of an API. It means that you can run it on your on-premise as well. So on-premise or any other servers as well. You need not have your project sitting on GCP. It can sit on any other cloud, or it can be on any of the private servers as well, and you can use this. However, yes, this might introduce a bit of latency, but that's a trade-off that you need to do versus security versus performance, but which is a very minor one. So it helps you kind of there are two uh, APIs broken down into WebRIS. There is something called as a lookup API and there is a update API. So lookup, again, it's more of your URL is kind of scanned against a list of URLs and detected whether it is a malicious or a vulnerable one. And An update API is a bit different. There is a local database that sits at your end, and then your URL is scanned against that database. So which is a bit faster, and the lookup one is a bit slower compared to like how the scanning happens and how the thread detection happens. So that is one API, and the other, I believe, like you all might have kind of used it at different places. The reCAPTCHA one, it kind of helps you from any kind of fraudulent spam activity or abuse, especially used a lot when there is user inputs, forms, and so on. So reCAPTCHA is something that GCP provides you. So that is one way of using it. Uh, so yeah, that's more of it. I kind of wanted to cover the basics of payments, standards around it, the security layers around it, the tools, frameworks that you can use. So if I have to talk of standards around payment, two prominent ones: web payments, which are kind of from an India perspective, you can think of the Google Pay API. Who is actually responsible for security? You all now know the answer. So it's like everyone's responsibility. Certain tools, frameworks. So specifically, if I talk of Indian regulatory frameworks, it's the PCI DSS compliance that you need to ensure that your website is on GCP platform. There is a web security scanner, and also like there is a whole big security command center itself on your cloud platform itself. So which kind of helps you not only from a web perspective, but also your infrastructure security is also kind of taken care over there. And then certain APIs that are readily available from malicious URL scanning or vulnerability scanning. There is web risk and reCAPTCHA for different kind of forms and so on. So that's it for this session, folks. Happy to like kind of ask or answer any questions. That's my credentials. You can reach out to me on Twitter at drvaya. And remember, security is everyone's responsibility. Thanks again, WebDev, for inviting me. It was a pleasure speaking. So I'll look forward to questions and kind of I'll hop on to the StreamYard thing. Okay. Uh,